YouTube, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today guys, we will talk about the Centurion. As I've been recording this video, Triple Tactics team already announced that this is going to be the leaks for the next selection pack. This was already been given as well in the past ban list that Calamity was banned, so it's not going to be accessible for Centurions doing a Calamity lock. Kudos to Triple Tactics team for giving us the information firsthand. So first and foremost, what we're going to do with the showcase, normally we are going to do the core deck list, the Master Duel deck list, and then we'll do the combos. So without further ado, let's go to our core deck list. Okay, so here we are with the core deck list. So as you might see here, we have one card still in the OCG, which is the Atre. For our main deck, there's quite a small number of monsters that you can just use. The best thing about the Centurion is you can run non-archetype monsters like hand traps or engines that you can do with this deck. A majority of your cards doesn't give you a lock. But yeah, monsters. So talk about the MF6. So during your opponent's turn, if this card is in your hand or graveyard quick effect, you can target one Centurion monster you control and place a card in your spell and trap card zone as a face-up continuous trap card. And if you do spell summon this card, also you can only spell summon the Centurion monsters once per turn. The MF, the copy of Primera, and the copy of Trudea is once per turn spell summon, because it would be really OP if you summon them quite a lot. If this card is in your spell and trap card zone, you can spell summon this card, so it usually triggers your field spell to synchro summon. But yeah, with regards to the number of copies for MF, you usually need to run 2 copies of it. You can run 1, but I think it won't be optimal, so just go with 2 copies. Really good card as a level 8 body. Then we have our starter, which is ironically, it is called Primera. So while this card is in your continuous spell and trap card zone, level 5 or higher Centurion monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects, so a really good protection tip is on your back row. You can also spell summon this card if this is in your spell and trap card zone, but you can only spell summon Primera once per turn. So once this card is normal or spell summon, you can add one Centurion card from your deck to your hand. So your typical targets for this is a copy of your stand-up Centurion, which is your field spell, and your field spell will gain access to one Centurion monster to your spell and trap card zone as a continuous trap card. So with regards to the number of Primera, always max this one out. Like I said, this is also your starter or one of your starters for your deck. Then next up, we have a copy of Trudea, so 3 copies as well, same as the Primera. So during your main phase, you can place this card you control and one of your Centurion monsters from your hand or deck to the spell and trap card zone as a continuous trap card. And once per turn, you can spell summon this card to the field. If this card is spell summoned, you can also level modulate this card into a level 8. So if you have the tuner, which is the Primera, or the only tuner, which is Primera, you can also use the Trudea as a level 8 other than the copy of MF, and then you can sync off into a level 12 monster on the field. So that is your main deck lineup. So the ones that we did not include with this main deck or the core list is a copy of Atre here. So I'm not sure if we're gonna have this card in our lineup, but if ever we'll get this card, it's basically on 1 copy only. So if this card you control would be used as a synchro material, you can treat it as a non-tuner as well. So Primera is not the only tuner after this, so you can have 1 copy of Atre. So if this card is normal or spell summoned and you have an Emblema and a Centurion card in your graveyard, you can draw 1 card. Also, you cannot spell summon Centurion Atre for the rest of the turn, so a similar luck as the other Centurion monsters, 1 spell summon. And then during your main phase, you can spell summon this card to the field. So the reason why this is just a 1 copy is because Primera is much better. And then the last monster that we did not include in this lineup is a copy of our Gargoyle II. So you can send 1 face-up Centurion card you control to the graveyard, spell summon this card from your hand. Also, you cannot spell summon Centurion Gargoyle for the rest of the turn. Same lock for spell summon Centurion monsters. If this card is sent to the graveyard as a synchro material, you can add this card back to your hand. Really good for resourcing as well. During the main phase, if this card is a continuous spell and trap card, you can spell summon this card to the field, and you can level modulate same as the copy of Trudea. Instead of a level 8, you can go with a level 4 for this monster. So pretty good. Yes, sorry, that's the only one there. The rest are all synchro monsters. Now for the spell and trap cards. First and foremost, we have here Centurion Bonds. So place 1 Centurion monster from your hand or graveyard in your spell and trap card zone as a continuous trap card. If a Centurion synchro monster is spell summoned to the field while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish this card, then target 1 Centurion monster in your graveyard, place it in your spell and trap card zone as a face-up continuous spell. Only 1 copy for this, as I've seen with some other builds. But yeah, that's still a pretty good card as well for gaining resources back to the field. Then we have our next card, which is Emblema Oath. So place one Centurion monster from your deck in your spell and trap card zone as a face-up continuous trap card. For the rest of the turn, while you control that card or any card with the same original name, you cannot spell summon from the extra deck except Centurion monster. So easy enough. You just have to remove that card and then you can freely sync off into another monster. The second effect is you can set one Centurion spell or trap card directly from your deck, which is a really good access to your Awakening. The next one we'll have is the Stand Up Centurion, which is your field spell, so cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects while you control a Centurion monster. So during your main phase, if this card was activated this turn, you can send one card from your hand to the graveyard, place one Centurion monster from your deck in your spell and trap card zone as a continuous trap card. So typical targets for this is Primera or even a copy of your Trudea. But if you have these cards here, the MF is a really good target as well. So if a monster is spell summoned, immediately after this card resolves, synchro summon one synchro monster using the monsters, including the Centurion monster. So the next ones we did not include in our lineup here. So there's only two. So one is the Emblema Atonement. So banish one face-up Centurion monster you control from the spell and trap card zone. Then target one card your opponent controls, just banish it. If this set card is destroyed or banished by your opponent's activated effects, you can place those Centurion monsters with different names from your hand, deck, or graveyard, and or banish. I think that's the correct word for it. In your spell and trap card zone as a continuous. So that's pretty good if you're trying to gain resources back from your banished pile or even from your graveyard. But yeah, that is Atonement. And then lastly, we have here Wake Up Centurion, which is another quick play spell. So if a monster card is face up in your spell and trap card zone, you can declare one level 4 or 8 spell summon one token on the field with the declared level, but it cannot be used as a fusion or link material, so that's understandably good. It's just basically used as a synchro material. So during your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, send one Centurion card from your deck to the graveyard. I think your best targets for this is a copy of your MF, and I think that's basically it for your spell cards. And then lastly, for our trap cards, True Awakening. So when a spell, trap card, or a monster effect is activated, send one face-up monster card from your spell and trap card zone to the graveyard, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. So this is a counter trap, so one of the strongest spell speeds there is. And yeah, all you need to do is just send face-up Centurion monster from your back row. And lastly, we have here the Centurion Phalanx. So target one face-up monster on the field, banish it, and if you do during the summon phase of the next turn, special summon that banished monster to its owner's field. You can banish this card from your graveyard and target one Centurion synchro monster from your graveyard or in your graveyard, spell summon it, but it loses 1500 attack. It's not half bad, I would say. You know, if you want to run this, just go with one copy. So just a recap for your main deck, you need 2 copies of MF, 3 copies of Primera, 3 copies of Trudea, 1 copy of Bonds, 3 copies of your Emblema Oath, 3 copies of Stand Up Centurion, and 1 copy of Awakening. If you want to run the other cards that were not included in the main deck, 1 copy of Atonement or 0 to 1 copy of Atonement. You can run with 1 copy of Wake Up Centurion, and lastly, 1 copy for the Phalanx. For your extra deck, where we just have 2 synchro monsters here, or one of our boss monsters, which is Legatia. So your monsters with 2000 or less attack cannot be destroyed by battle, so they synergize quite a bit. And that's basically what I like about this Centurion deck is all their cards protect each other. So if this card is spell summoned, you can draw 1 card. Then you can destroy the monster your opponent controls with the highest attack. So this is really good, having to draw 1 card and then pop 1 card on your opponent's side. During the end phase, you can place 1 non-synchro Centurion monster from your hand or graveyard to your spell and trap card zone as a continuous trap card. So we'll showcase this one later along the combo. With regards to the number of copies for Legatia, I would prefer going for 3 copies for this optimally, but 2 copies is just okay though. If you're tight with your extra deck, just go with 2 copies. If you have a lot of room, just go with 3 copies. Now for Auxilia. So face-up cards in your spell and trap card zones cannot be destroyed by card effects. If this card is spell summoned, you can add 1 Centurion card from your deck to your hand. So same effect as Primera, having to search out a card. During the end phase, place 1 of your non-synchro Centurion monsters that is banished or in your graveyard in your spell and trap card zone. With regards to the number of copies, if it's tight, just go with 1 copy of Auxilia. If not, go for 2 copies. So that is your core deck list for the Centurions. Let's go towards our Master Duel deck list for the archetype. Okie doke, so here we are with our Master Duel deck list for the Centurion. So as you might see here, My build revolves around with the Horus. The best thing about the Centurions is you can add some engines with your main deck. I've seen some builds, they add Bestials, they add Resonators. So for your main deck here, we are running with the Horus and then the Centurions. So the same number that we talked about in the core, the 1 copy of Happy, the 3 copies of your Mseti, 2 copies of the King Sarcophagus. Bonfire is really good with this deck because Tridea is a Pyromancer, so it's pretty good though. So there are a couple of 1-card starters here. So your Bonfire, your Tridea, your Field Spell, and even your Primera. Yeah, that's basically it. Staples that we'll have, Maxi, Ash Blossoms, even Veilers are pretty good with this deck because, like I said, you can have non-archetype monsters or archetype cards in this deck. That works perfectly well. Extra deck, it's gonna be a little bit more expensive. First and foremost, we don't have Calamity, so we'll go with the next best thing. We have Cosmic Blazer Dragon or a copy of Red Supernova Dragon, which are 2 level 12 dragon monsters that you can cheat summon into with a copy of Crimson Dragon. And then we have 3 copies of Legatia. I'm pretty sure that this card is going to be a UR once it's going to be coming out. So another UR that you're going to spend. The Auxilia, the 1 copy of Final Sigma, the copy of Masurawu. This is a pretty good though. If your opponent tries to activate a spell trap card, you can draw up to 3 cards. And then for your Exi monsters, the Zombie Vampire from the Horus, the Dingirso for the removal or non-target removal, number 90 against Nibiru's. We have the Palooza, the Little Knight, and the IP Masquerena. So that is your main deck for your Master Duel deck list, guys. Let's go towards the combos for the deck. Okay, so here we are with the combos that I managed to pull out with the Centurions. So first and foremost, we'll try it out with the Bonfire. So let's start. So Bonfire is still a really good starter. Bonfire, gain access to Tridea. Tridea will be normal summon to the field, and then it will gain access to a copy of Primera once you use its effect. So both will be placed in the back row. And then since Primera is going to be added in the back row, we can spell summon it once per turn, gain access to the field spell. And then field spell, we can use the effect, dump 1 card, and then gain access to the Emeth. Emeth will be spell summoned to the field. And since we have a level 8 and a level 4, we can synchro summon into a copy of our boss monster, which is the Legatia. Legatia upon summon will allow us to draw 1 card. So that's easy enough. That's a quick and easy combo with the deck with just 2 cards or 1.5 card, of course. So let's go to a next one. Okay, so here we are with our next combo, and this is with the field spell. So let's start. We always need a 1 card discard for the field spell for this to work. So field spell will be activated, discarding our 1 card, gaining access to the Primera. Primera will be spell summoned to the field, gaining access to the Tridea. Tridea will then be normal summoned, and gaining access to our Emeth to our back row. Emeth will be spell summoned, and then we can sync off into a copy of our Legatia. So drawing us 1 card, and that is our board. So same board as always, plus the 3 cards that you started off with your hand. So pretty good. So onwards to the next combo. Okay, so here is a similar one, but instead of the field spell, we have the Oath. So the Oath is still pretty good though, a really good 1 card starter. So we go for Oath here, gaining access to the Tridea. Tridea will be spell summoned to the field, gaining access to the Primera. Primera will be then spell summoned, gaining access to the field spell. Field spell will dump a copy of 1 card from our hand, gaining access to the Emeth, and then Emeth will be spell summoned, and then sync off into the Legatia, drawing 1 card. Still the same field that we actually did, but a different starter. So So last one we have here our Primera. Primera will be summoned to the field, gaining access to our field spell. Activated, dumping 1 card, gaining access to the Tridea. Tridea will be spell summoned, gaining access to our MF. MF will then be spell summoned. And then we sync off into our Legatia, drawing 1 card. We continue on with this combo. So during the end phase, we use the effect of Legatia, putting our monster back on the field. Like I said earlier, the Tridea can level modulate. So it's still pretty good though. During our opponent's turn, since these cards are a trap card, you can use it. So level modulate, level 8 and level 4. We go for a Crimson Dragon. Crimson Dragon will be activated. Targeting our level 12, going for a copy of our Blazing Dragon. And then during the end phase, we go for MF on the back row. So during our turn, we normal summon our Tridea, gaining access to our copy for Primera. Spell summon the level 8 and we sync off again. Summon for the Auxilia, we search out the 1 card to our hand. So gaining more access to our cards. You can also summon a copy of Legatia if ever you don't need to search out another Centurion card, which is still pretty good though. The draw 1 or search 1, yeah, whatever you want to summon to the field. So still pretty good though, and that is our board right there, guys. So plus the 3 cards that you haven't used with our combo. So what are your thoughts with the new Centurion cards? Sad to say we couldn't summon Calamity now. So regardless, still pretty good though. I mean, 2 dragons that are level 12 that are very powerful that you can summon to the field, which has Omni Negates. Anyways, that's it for today. Keep safe, good luck. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.